You trust this stuff with your skin, but can you actually see the difference between a $30 sunscreen and one that costs $10? Today, we're taking 3 popular sunscreens all the way to 1,000 times magnification to find out what the naked eye has been missing. Then we'll introduce each one to living rotifers and see how they react. Every time you put sunscreen on your skin, you're spreading thousands of microscopic particles across its surface. Today, you're going to see what they actually look like and find out whether a $50 sunscreen really looks any different from a $10 sunscreen. So let's start with sample A. Right away, sample A looks pretty smooth, but it's definitely not perfectly even. You can already see thicker and thinner areas across the slide. And that's one of the first things I look for because the more evenly a sunscreen is mixed together, the more evenly it can spread across your skin, and that's important. So now things start getting cool. At 100 times magnification, we're seeing thousands of tiny microscopic structures that make up this sunscreen. Every time you rub this on your skin, you're spreading millions of these across its surface. What I want to see here is a nice even distribution without a lot of larger clumps or obvious separation. So we're at 1,000 times and we're close enough to really see how this sunscreen is put together. Remember, a microscope can't really tell us how much the UV protection you're getting, but it can show us how consistent the formula is. And consistency matters because it helps create a more even layer across your skin. What I like about sample A is that overall, everything looks pretty evenly spread out. I don't see any major separation, and that's exactly what I want to see. What I don't like is that there are still a few larger clusters mixed in, and they're not everywhere, but it's something I'll compare against the other 2 samples before I decide which one impressed me the most. So let's go to sample B. Okay, right away guys, sample B has a different look than the last one. This one covers much more of the slide, and I don't see nearly as many open areas. At this magnification, one thing I'm looking for is whether the sunscreen forms a nice continuous layer. The more complete that layer is, the more protection you have. Now, we're getting a closer look at what's making up that layer. Instead of a few large structures, this sample is packed with thousands of tiny microscopic features. Every time you put sunscreen on, you're spreading millions of these across your skin. So I want to see them distributed as evenly as possible. So at 400 times, we can really start judging the texture of the formula. One thing I look for here is whether the sample stays nice and consistent or starts breaking into larger clumps. And so far, this one looks pretty good, pretty uniform. And that's exactly what I like to see in a sunscreen. Okay guys, now we're close enough to really see how the sunscreen is put together. Compared to the last sample, this one has a much finer appearance. And I don't really see many large gaps between the microscopic structures. What I like about sample B is how smooth and consistent the overall formula looks. It appears well mixed, and I don't see any major signs that is separating. What I don't like is that there are still a few larger pockets scattered throughout the sample. I mean, they're not a huge concern. It's not perfect, but I'll wait until we've looked at sample C before deciding which sunscreen impressed me the most under the microscope. Okay, right away, sample C looks different than the other 2. What do you guys think? So instead of covering most of the slide, this one breaks up into larger islands with more open space in between. And one thing I'm paying attention to here is how continuous that layer looks. Because when you put sunscreen on your skin, you want to spread into one coating instead of leaving gaps. So as we zoom in, those larger islands start revealing a lot more detail. What looks solid at first is actually made up of thousands of tiny microscopic structures. It's all packed together. This is where I start asking myself, does this look like it's going to spread into a smooth, even layer, or does it look like it's going to stay broken apart? So now we're at 400 times magnification, and we can really judge the texture of the formula. Notice how these microscopic structures almost form a network that connects together. That's something I like seeing because it tells me the formula isn't just a collection of random particles. It looks like it's working together as one continuous mixture. So at 1,000 times, we get our closest look yet, and you can really appreciate just how much is packed into something that looked perfectly smooth coming out of the bottle. And every time you put sunscreen on, this is a microscopic world you're spreading across your skin. And what I like about sample C is that the formula looks well connected. I don't see a lot of random clumping, and the microscopic structures appear to flow together pretty well. The one thing I'll be watching is larger open areas between some of these sections. They don't automatically mean there's a problem, but I'm curious to see how this sample stacks up against the other 2 once we reveal the brands. Okay guys, I think it's time to put sunblock on the rotifers. Let's see how this goes. Okay, let's check this guy out. A little bit about him. These guys have been around for millions and millions of years, and they're pretty cool creatures. Their first line of defense basically is they'll curl up in a ball like a turtle, and they won't come out until the environment is improved. So you see those things in front of his mouth, they're spinning. Those are called cilia. And what that does is they spin in opposite directions and they create this vortex, and it sucks everything in the water, and he filters out all the debris, and he collects algae, microorganisms, decaying matter. And right behind that's called the mastix, and that's his jaw and his teeth. You know, it's like grinding things down. And from behind that, you'll see a little thing moving, and that's his muscle. And that muscle pushes everything down towards his stomach. And then behind that is his actual toe or foot, and he holds on to the debris as he feeds. So watch the left part of your screen. I'm going to introduce the solution, which is Sample A sunblock, and check him out. And there it is, guys. Watch him. Boom. See? Went to a ball. He knows his environment changed. His mouth is back out. He's testing the water. That's not a bad sign right there. It's a good sign. And you'll see the debris floating on top, and that is sunblock. So he's getting coated with sunblock, which is good, maybe good for him in the sun, but as far as the internal structure, let's see how he handles it. But again, he knows something's changed. And there's another blast right there, 2,000 gallons of sunblock. It's still good. He's out there foraging, eating. He's testing the water. His muscles moving. You can see it. Yeah, so far so good. No really reaction from this guy. I'm kind of shocked, but there you have it. Not bad, guys. Okay, I think we've seen it. Let's go ahead now. Remember this, Sample A, sunblock. Let's move to Sample B, rotifer test, and see how he or she fares. All right, here's our little rotifer, and let me zoom in a little bit to 400 times to get a closer look. It's pretty cool. Okay, now you can see internal structures more clearly now. So you see his muscle moving back and forth right there. It's pretty cool. His stomach's right behind it, and he's got some algae in there, some debris. And also, they have eggs too, but if they have eggs, you'll see like a really orange spots right besides his stomach. It's an external, the egg. So, and then you'll see his toe. Well, his toe is kind of out of the picture there, but okay, watch the left part of your screen. Here comes the sunblock. Boom, you guys see it right there? Let me focus for you real quick, and it looks like obviously he knows his environment has changed. You see him going on a ball for a little bit, looking to get away. There's another blast right there, you see it? Okay, his mouth went back out. He's testing the water, trying to see what the hell was that. And I'm really surprised he didn't go back in his shell. I'm actually kind of shocked. All right, so let's go ahead and head over to Sample C rotifer test and see if he can withstand this 20,000 gallons of sunblock. Okay, here's Sample C rotifer, and I'm gonna tell you guys, I hit him really good because this sunblock was thick and it was hard to dilute. So watch him on the left-hand side, and it'll move from left to right. And it's gonna cover this, there it is, you see it? It's like a snowstorm. That is sunblock, Sample C sunblock. And check him out. He is freaking out, of course, and looking for a place to stay or go. And these guys are really good swimmers too. So you're gonna witness him swim out of this really quick and try to find a safe place. Okay, zoom back out to get an overall picture of what's going on here. So I found two others, maybe three, one on the bottom, but yeah, they're all stuck in this sunblock. Okay, see that guy in the top? I think this is the guy that's gonna swim out. There he goes, you see him? So get this, he uses his cilia in his mouth to pull himself forward. So he eats with the cilia, and actually he moves with it too. So it's like a propeller, like 1,000 propellers in the water, pulling himself forward. So I felt sorry for the guys. I wanted to let him free, right? So I took some distilled water, introduced it on the left side. I'm gonna clean out the slide. So check this out. So here comes, there it is. There's the clean water. I'm cleaning out the whole entire slide, trying to remove the sunblock. And it's difficult because there's a lot. There's a second blast of distilled water. It's getting cleaner. You guys can see it, a little bit easier. So there you have it, you guys. I have a heart. I love animals. Now let's get out of this microscopic world and get back to reality. I'll reveal Sample A, B, and C. So here's the reveal. Finally, Sample A was Banana Boat SPF 30. Sample B was Roche-Posay SPF 50. And Sample C was Max Block SPF 30. After looking at all three under the microscope, one thing became pretty clear, you guys. Even though they're all designed to do the same job, they're definitely not built the same way. Some look more uniform, some had larger clusters, and each one had its own microscopic fingerprint. A microscope can't tell us which sunscreen offers the best UV protection. That's what SPF testing is actually for. But it can show us something most people never get to see, what they're actually putting on their skin. Listen, if you've ever wanted to do these experiments yourself, my official Visual Scientist field manual is linked below. It isn't free, but every purchase goes right back into this channel. It helps me buy new products to test, microscope supplies, and keeps these experiments coming. So if you decide to pick up a copy, thank you. It really does make a difference. If you enjoyed this experiment, let me know what product you'd like to see under the microscope next. Thank you for watching. Be good to yourself and others.